Hi, I'm Dr. Valerie Watts, and I'm here to help you with the A flat major etude by Soussman entitled Andante Cantabile. This piece is a beautiful lyrical piece, and it lives up to its name, cantabile, which means singing. It's your chance to show how you can sing on the flute. Probably the first thing you want to think about is just making sure that your vibrato is spinning nicely through all of the longer notes. And this particular etude has a lot of ornaments, so probably the first thing I would suggest is to play the opening bars without any ornaments, just the main notes, so I can get a nice flow and shape to my phrases, something like this. You probably noticed while I'm vibrating, my cheeks are kind of puffing out a little bit. I actually put a little air in my cheeks to help keep my jaw relaxed. My lips are focused, but my jaw is relaxed and open. I have space between my teeth, and that helps me get a nice, beautiful, round sound. So that's something to experiment with. Now we should probably go to the ornaments. That's what's kind of confusing about this piece. I'm going to share my screen with you so you can see what I'm talking about. Um, Documents, you will see the different kind of gruppettos, or what I call a four-note turn. Here's one after a half note. Here's one, just a few, it's later in the piece, it's bar 33, where the gruppetto is after a quarter note. And then sometimes we just have two grace notes. This is in the fifth bar. And finally, we have a trill with a turn. So if we go to this particular document I have, it shows the rhythm that you want to use. With the first example in bar 1, what you want to do is count 1 and 2, and then on the and of 2, you play the ornament. So it will sound something like this. I can subdivide, I can play the eighth notes. Da da dum, be da 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 dum. Just for me to kind of get a nice feeling of the rhythm. And then I can play it as written, but feeling that eighth note pulse. 1 and 2 and. The same thing happens in bar 33. Here I want to play it on the and of 1. So if I were to play the whole bar of 33, that's how that would sound. And then the third example was when we had just two grace notes. Now I know they're listed as sixteenths, but we have sixteenths in the bar before and after, and you want these to sound like grace notes. So I would turn them into 30-seconds, which means I would put them on the to, e, and on the or if you count tu, ti, te, ta on the ta, that's when I would play those two graces. So it sounds like this. And you can hear they're twice as fast as the sixteenths in the next bar. So that'll help out a lot. When you come to the trill, that can be a little tricky for us. But I would first practice these turns without the trill. So I would just play the actual main note. Or I'm going to play the whole bar of measure 19. good about that, how I'm placing them. I add the trill. Now this trill, A flat to B flat, happens to be kind of a tricky one. Some people play it where they just trill their A key. You have the other option of trilling both your A and G key. Just make sure that you keep your G sharp key down. So, that's how that grace note would sound. So once you feel comfortable about all of these graces and trills, you'll feel a lot more confident and just feeling that pulse instead of just trilling or making a turn fast will having all your ducks in a row and that constant pulse will help you keep the piece flowing. Now the next thing that's kind of interesting about this piece is the actual kind of organization of the whole thing. So I created a document where I highlighted it, and it helped me kind of see how everything works. This piece is all about 2-bar phrases. Now sometimes they're kind of like 4-bar phrases with maybe 2 bars phrases linked together. But when you look at the piece in the first part, the 2-bar phrases are really clear. There's usually a rest in between. And you can see how I have it highlighted, and I also have a little bracket for each phrase. And what I like to do is with phrases create an arch. So in other words, you want to kind of grow and go to a particular note and then let it kind of decay naturally. So in this case, I like having the first phrase lead all the way to the B flat in the second phrase. And then the third bar is going to lead all the way to the A flat in the fourth phrase. That makes it really shapely. Sometimes a phrase will grow and then end kind of on a crescendo, which I think this next phrase does. And then the phrase that follows, it's almost like the phrase I just played is a question. This next phrase is like an answer, and it comes to a conclusion. It gets softer, but it starts strong. So once you start thinking about how the phrases are sounding and where they're going, it really makes it interesting because he didn't give you much notation with dynamics just at the very beginning. The next part with the 16ths in this yellow section, I like to create shapes and I want to bring out those low notes. So I often try to crescendo to them as well. Here we go with the first. And incidentally, with that low part, if you can, put a little nose grease on your pinky. That'll help it move around easily. But the big thing is try not to let your pinky lock and move in a straight way. It's much easier if the joints are curved. And I'm just kind of circling around those keys. It makes it a lot easier. Okay, when you look at the next section that I highlighted in green, these phrases are still 2-bar phrases, but do you see this blue squiggly lines? Those are like little connecting arpeggios or scales, and they're kind of like big pickups to the next phrase, which is lovely. It makes the piece a little more interesting. It's also challenging for us because we have to take our breaths fast. So where at the beginning I can take a nice leisurely full breath, in these green sections I have to take fast breaths. And sometimes I take little sips, and I'm going to show you another document that shows that. I just wanted to kind of show you how at the end, okay, we have a little more time to breathe, but we also have another green section starting in bar 32 through, I guess it's bar 37 in that first page, and it goes to, all the way to bar 40. So let me show you on my next document how that's done. This time what I did was I created a document for you with breaths. So my big leisurely breaths are checked in red, and the fast little breaths are what I call sips. Let me see if I can show you what they sound like. I'm going to start on, looks like line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can hear how this is. So I have to take fast little breaths. Sometimes they're noisy when I'm a little tense, but if I'm really relaxed and thinking how, you can't hear that fast little breath. And so that's what you want to try to do. You can see also on this version that I have with the breath marks, I've also noted that really there are only 3 bars, I believe, where you don't need to use your thumb B flat. In other words, the rest of the piece, you can keep your thumb B flat down. And I would recommend it because it makes everything sound so much smoother. So the opening bar, yes, don't have your thumb B flat down. But then once you get into the second bar, you can keep it down for quite a while. And usually I move it on and off when I'm playing a C or a D flat. That helps it move smoothly. But it's that first bar, and then in the fourth line, that is bar 13, and it shows up again in bar 25. So those are the spots where you want that thumb B flat to be off. You can also see, I'll go back, that we have in this version that I made for you, I've added breath marks dynamics. And so I didn't want it to all be piano. One thing I did was, you can see right here where I have piano dolce. This was to help me because I've been taking a lot of sips. And so to help manage my air, I decided while I was on the upper D flat to play it really softly. And then that allowed me to go on until I could get a really good breath in the next line. And then near the end, where we have our big fermatas, those are super big moments. So really milk them with a forte. That can really make it exciting. Okay, finally, you probably noticed that we have a lot of staccato marks, but a staccato in a slower piece isn't the same as a staccato in a fast allegro or vivace style work. These are more like brush strokes, so you want to try to think of them kind of as one little string of jewels moving up or down. For instance, right near the end. they're longish, but it lets me sing through them, and it adds to the quality of the singing style. And I think that is about it, what I have to recommend for you. Um, just work hard on the rhythm so you feel really comfortable and get it flowing. And I'm just going to give you one more little tip. There's a wonderful exercise that you can use to help you relax and sing. And what you're going to do is you're going to play the first 5 notes of G major up and down. Then you sing ooh while you're fingering the notes. Ooh. And finally, you want to sing and play. When I go back to playing, it's amazing how it transforms my sound. So what I do is I usually start on G major and then I just go up by half steps. I'll play A flat major, the first 5 notes up and down, then A major, and just go up a few more keys where it's comfortable singing, and I feel really warmed up. I'm using my breath, my jaw's relaxed, everything's working well together. So best of luck to you, and